Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Honeybell Mama from the True Off My Chest subreddit, and it says, my husband doesn't see how his work wife is trying to destroy our marriage. I, 31 female, am at my wit's end with my husband's 32 male co-worker, Sarah, 30 female, and his complete inability to see what's happening. I'm not usually one for Reddit, but I need to know if I'm going crazy here. Where do I even start? 3 years ago, my husband, Mark, started working with Sarah. At first, I tried to be welcoming. I invited her to our barbecues, included her in group outings, and genuinely tried to be friendly. Big mistake. She spent the entire time making backhanded comments about everything from my career. Oh, you're just a yoga instructor. How peaceful. To my cooking. I guess not everyone can master basic seasoning. The problem is that Mark thinks she's just being funny. Last month, she literally threw away the anniversary mug I gave him because it clashed with the office aesthetic. When I got upset, Mark said I was being too sensitive and that Sarah just has high standards for office decor. There was a mug with our wedding photo on it. Some greatest hits from Sarah. She scheduled a mandatory work dinner on our anniversary. She convinced Mark not to take a promotion because it would mean working for a different team. She posts daily photos of them together with hashtags like #WorkPowerCouple and #WorkSpouse. She tells everyone at their office that she takes better care of him than I do. She changed his coffee order and now tells everyone she trained him right. The worst part, my husband is completely blind to all of this. Yesterday he told me about how Sarah said our new house, which we spent months searching for, was charming in a starter home kind of way. He repeated this while laughing. I tried talking to him about it, but Sarah has convinced him I'm just insecure. She's managed to insert herself into every aspect of our lives. They text constantly, even on weekends. She knows his schedule better than I do. She rearranged his entire desk and office wardrobe because his style was too suburban husband. That's what he is! Last week I suggested marriage counseling. He looked genuinely confused. He of course went and talked to Sarah about it. I found out from another co-worker that she's been telling people that Mark and I are going through a rough patch and that she's just being a good friend by giving him someone to talk to. We weren't going through anything until she started this nonsense. The breaking point? I stopped by his office to surprise him with lunch. I know, but it was his birthday and Sarah was supposedly out sick. Guess who was there? Sarah. She had miraculously recovered and bought him a cake that said, "To my work hubby," with a photo of them from the office holiday party. She saw me and said, "Oh, Amy, you came too. How nice." Mark, you didn't tell me your real wife was coming. I'm not too crazy, right? This woman is trying to destroy my marriage while my husband stands there grinning like it's all some big joke. What do I do? Divorce seems extreme, but I'm running out of options here. ETA, I should have stated that the promotion wasn't one that would increase his salary, but his title. It would have given him more leadership experience. It still blows my mind that he turned it down just so he could stay on the same team as her. ETA, I should have told the mug story in its entirety. She accidentally broke the mug. I noticed it was gone when I was visiting him one day and I asked him about it. He said she accidentally knocked it over, and then later he repeated a joke she made about how it didn't fit the office aesthetic. As we always say in stories like that, this is a husband problem. It felt like he was just enabling and excusing her increasingly concerning behavior. And let's face it, she's not being subtle about it. Accidentally, air quotes, throwing away the wedding photo mug, calling herself his work hubby, making a cake with it with a picture of them on it. And I'm not sure how you could actually be oblivious to this kind of behavior. No, he's actively prioritizing Sarah's feelings over his wife and telling her that she's insecure for being concerned about it. My jaw nearly hit the floor when, wife said, let's go and get some counseling to kind of try and remedy this. What did he do? He ran straight to Sarah to discuss it. Linda then spread rumors about their marriage being troubled. It just feels like emotional infidelity, possibly more, who knows. But Medieval Misfit says Sarah would not be able to sabotage your marriage if your husband wasn't allowing it. Forward Most says, you have a husband problem. Go to counseling and get professional help to communicate your concerns. Remind him that he's married to you, not Sarah, so her opinion shouldn't matter when it comes to your marriage. Good luck, but be prepared for the worst. Late Butterfly says, yeah, this guy isn't oblivious, he's complicit. He knows what's happening and he likes the attention. He's happy to let his girlfriend disrespect his wife. So, sometime later, OP came in with her update and said, hi, I-31 female posted a few days ago. I really didn't expect my post to blow up the way it did. I got so overwhelmed by all the comments that I haven't responded to any. I want to address everyone who says it's fake. I understand why you would think that, but this is my personal hell. I only listen to Reddit stories on TikTok, but this has reached this boiling point. I just needed a place to talk. So I made an account and tried to yell into the void. Well, the void turned out to be less empty than I thought. Now to why everyone is here, the update. Before I talked to my husband, 32 male, I decided to do some investigation. I started with his phone and read all the messages between him and Sarah. She badmouthed me a few times. He did nothing to defend me, but didn't engage either. She was flirty. He wasn't really flirty back. They talked a lot and he praised her frequently for her work ethic and intelligence. I didn't see anything about cheating. I checked his email, nothing. I checked his work email, nothing. I looked through our other devices, nothing. I searched high and low for a second phone, nothing. Everything I found was always dancing that line. Nothing was outright cheating, but here are the things that I found that did hurt my feelings. He has lunch with her, and only her, every day in the office. They don't really like anyone else, so they criticize others and say, let's talk more at lunch. They're serving XYZ today. It'd say things like, I'm sure if you were a wife, you would XYZ. He always kept it as a wife and not my wife, but it still upset me. She admitted to breaking the mug on purpose. He didn't get upset with her, just said, yeah, the photo gifts are kind of corny. I confronted him. I laid it all out, and while he wasn't upset, he did try to brush things off. He said I was being sensitive and overreacting. I told him if we didn't have a real conversation about this, I would file for divorce. That got his attention and he sat down with me. He admitted that at first he found it odd that Sarah was trying so hard. He saw her trying hard with all the men in the office. The more attention she gave him, the more he enjoyed it. And the more he responded, the more attention she gave. Until she just had her sights on him. He knew some of the other men were envious, and he liked that too. He admitted that eventually, it just got too deep. He said he knew it was wrong, but had gotten addicted to the attention and didn't want her to move on to another man. So he indulged her sometimes at my expense. He said it was just nice to have two women in the two major parts of his life, stating that he knew we'd rarely see one another. So what was the harm? He reiterated that he never ever physically cheated with her, but admitted it could be called an emotional affair. It was painful. I won't hide that. I mean, really painful, like I wasn't enough. I told him from this point on, he needed to stop communicating with Sarah and asked to be transferred or switch jobs altogether. Now folks, I mean it when I tell you this. He lost his shit. He began raising his voice, saying things like he never cheated, it was all above board, and I couldn't control who he talked with at work. He called me a narcissist and a control freak. He told me I had no idea how hard it was, how much stress he had in the office, and that his personal relationship with Sarah helps a lot. Taking it away would just damage his mental health. It got so bad that I started crying. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to leave. I packed a small bag and called my mother-in-law. She's the only family I have here. I gave her a rundown of what was going on and she offered her home to me. I'm staying here and just hoping my husband calms down so we can revisit this. I want to work it out. I love him more than anything. I will try harder to answer some of the comments on this post and I will definitely update if something new happens. This has been really therapeutic and makes me feel less alone. The top two comments on that says, "Welp, I kind of figured he wasn't that clueless. This is a full-blown emotional affair. From experience, things will only escalate until they're in bed together. Protect your peace because he sure doesn't give a damn about your feelings. Stay strong. Toga Suck says, jumped right from admitted it could be called an emotional affair to began raising his voice, saying things like he never cheated. OP made a valiant effort, but it doesn't seem like this marriage can be saved. And one more comment from OP which says, my mother-in-law is on my side and told me point blank that he is wrong. However, she said she doesn't want to get in the middle because she doesn't want to damage the relationship with either one of us. She told me I'm welcome as long as I need, but she won't bring anything up to her son until he brings it up to her. My mother-in-law agrees his actions are wrong, but doesn't want things to escalate or to damage her relationship with either one of us, so she's staying out of it unless he contacts her. As for my husband, he's tried to reach out. He's called and left text messages. I let him know I was safe and left it at that. He will message or call every few hours, but we haven't talked. It's one of them ones where I just struggle to see any coming back from that. The trust is gone. He's literally made you feel like you're the one overreacting through all of this. Then in the update, he said he's never ever physically cheated, but admitted it could be called an emotional affair. Cheating's cheating. And when you told him he needed to separate himself from her, he loses his shit, raising his voice at you, calling you a narcissist, yet he's the one that's enjoying the attention from her. Cheeky bastard. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from a throwaway account, and it says, my sister-in-law, female 31, disinvited my wife, female 28, from her baby shower after a joke. But my brother, male 35, still wants me, male 30, to go. I'm stuck in the middle. It starts. I'm male 30, recently married the love of my life, female 28. I'm super close with my brother, male 35. We always imagined our families being close too, until one single lunch ruined everything. So my wife and I went out to eat with my brother and sister-in-law, female 31, who is pregnant and about to give birth to my first nephew. Needless to say, we are all very excited. Mid-meal, my brother, probably feeling sentimental, goes, man, I hope the baby turns out like me. He was such a cute kid. Now, a bit about my sister-in-law. She's usually nice and I like her, but she's definitely type A and a bit high maintenance. Without missing a beat, she shuts my brother down. No, I'd much rather he turns out like you. A bit of an awkward comment, and my brother probably thought so as well, so he goes, no, seriously, we'd be lucky if the kid was like OP. He was such a nice and cute kid. And then sister-in-law doubles down and says, no, but you're so much more handsome, before turning to look directly at me and adding, no offense. Now look, I wasn't deeply offended. My brother is a very good looking guy, so I get it. But who just says that out loud? My wife, who had been quiet up to this point, clearly found it rude. So she jokingly goes, well, as long as the baby doesn't look like sister-in-law, we should be fine. I chuckled, my brother laughed, sister-in-law did not laugh. She immediately got pissed, glared at my wife and went, what the hell does that mean? That's extremely rude. We're not close enough for jokes like that. My wife was taken aback, and so was I. My brother tried to say something, but she stormed out. My brother followed her, looking about as confused as I felt. Fast forward to today. Sister-in-law has officially disinvited my wife from the baby shower / celebration. My wife says she doesn't even want to go, which, fair enough. My brother is devastated and really wants me to be there. Now, here's the thing. My brother adores me. He's always been my biggest supporter, and he wants me to be a big part of my nephew's life. He's having his first child, and this moment is really important to him. I love my brother too, and I can't see him sad like that. He says both my wife and sister-in-law need to apologize eventually, but we shouldn't force it right now and give them some time to cool off. He also thinks sister-in-law owes me an apology for what she said, but again, pregnancy hormones or whatever, so he doesn't want to push it yet. My parents actually side with my wife and think sister-in-law was out of line first, but they also believe I shouldn't miss such a huge moment in my brother's life, and that we should cut sister-in-law some slack because of her pregnancy. Here's my issue. I don't feel right going if my wife isn't welcome. I want to support her, but I also know this moment means the world to my brother. If I go, my wife might feel abandoned. If I don't, my brother will be heartbroken. I feel completely stuck. Another Dominion says you stay home with your wife, send a gift, your brother has to deal with his wife. Grunt Bugley says, Pregnancy hormones are a real thing. Definitely don't force anything until the sister-in-law is ready. You should definitely sit this one out with your wife. Your wife is your nuclear family now. And as much as you love your brother, him and his wife come second in your list of priorities now. Blakey Memory says, I'm failing to see what the sister-in-law said was offensive. I'd rather my kids turn out like my husband rather than my brother-in-law, regardless of what my husband said in the moment. Your wife got butthurt over another woman preferring her own husband over hers on the subject of her child. That's weird as fuck to me. Commenter replies to that saying, yes, this whole mess makes no sense, and the wife's joke taking offense to what sister-in-law said was cruel. None of this makes sense, and then everyone laughed except the sister-in-law, of course. Opie's brother didn't even defend his wife and kept with an awkward cringe joke of the baby looking like his cute brother. Yikes. And then laughed at his wife being indirectly called ugly. What the fuck? And one more comment from Much Too Busy who says this whole conversation is so weird to begin with. Your brother saying you were a cute kid and he hopes his son turns out like you isn't too bad. But when his wife, who is very pregnant with his child, says that she prefer that their child resemble him, it should have stopped there. It's honestly bizarre that your brother would argue that, and if I were his wife, I'd be put out by that too. Of course she thinks her husband is better looking. It's utterly wild that your wife would find that insulting. For your wife to then insult your sister-in-law by saying it would be terrible for a child to resemble her is unbelievably mean. There is no excuse for that. Your brother owes his wife a little apology, and your wife owes her a big apology. I really don't know. If I were her, I'd forgive your wife, to be honest. That was a terrible thing to say to a pregnant woman. And the rest of the comments were literally all over the place. Some blaming the brother, some blaming the sister-in-law, some blaming Opie's wife. But OP came in with an update and says, thanks everyone for the replies. I think I read almost every single one. I really appreciate the different perspectives. First, some clarifications. My wife is not a mean person. She made a joke in the moment, although I admit that it wasn't a great joke given the sensitivity of the situation. But she's genuinely one of the kindest, most caring people I know. That's one of the reasons I love her so much. I don't think my brother did anything wrong by bringing up the topic. We were reminiscing about childhood and he probably got nostalgic about having his little brother following him everywhere. My brother and I resemble each other quite a bit, though he's definitely the better looking one. Funny how that works. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean I'm insecure. If anything, he's the outlier. He's one of those people who naturally turns heads. Even when we were younger, he'd get random girls hitting on him wherever he went. It was such a running joke in our family that even my parents would tease him about it. The entire conversation lasted less than 5 minutes and escalated very quickly. I agree with the comments that all of us should have handled the situation better, but easier to say that in hindsight. In real time, things just got out of hand very quickly. I'm sure that all of us regret what we said in the moment. Now for the actual update. I told my wife that I wouldn't go unless she was also invited. She immediately told me that she didn't want to be the reason I missed it, and that I should go if I wanted to. She even said she'd be willing to apologize if my sister-in-law was open to it, but that she wouldn't attend even if re-invited because she'd feel uncomfortable. I told her I appreciated that, but for me, it was both of us or none of us. Then I called my brother, and this is where I have to give him a lot of credit, because I know he was upset. He had really wanted me there, and I could hear the disappointment in his voice. But instead of pushing, he just said, I get it, man, don't worry about it. I know that wasn't easy for him to say. He had to balance keeping things calm with his wife while also wanting his brother by his side. But he didn't guilt trip me, didn't try to convince me otherwise, he just let me make my choice. He even said, don't worry, we'll save you guys some food and I'll drop it off later. I offered to help with the setup if he needed it, and told him to say I have COVID to avoid awkward questions. He just laughed and said, got it. You caught the world's shortest COVID, just long enough for the baby shower, but miraculously recovered the next day. Now here's where it got a bit more complicated. My mum was not happy with him for not sorting this out earlier. She felt like he should have stepped in and made peace before it got to the point where my wife was uninvited. But my parents didn't say anything directly because they didn't want to get involved in the drama. I think that really weighed on him. He was already trying to navigate a tough situation, and now he had our parents silently judging him too. It put him in an impossible position, trying to be a good husband, a good brother, and a good son all at once. A couple of days passed with no further drama, and something unexpected happened. My wife got a call from my sister-in-law. Oh boy. At first, my wife panicked, thinking she was about to get yelled at. but instead they actually had a really good conversation. I overheard bits of it, including my wife saying, "No, you're gorgeous," which made me laugh a little. After the call, my wife told me that sister-in-law actually apologized first. She admitted that she'd been feeling really self-conscious about her looks during pregnancy and that my wife's joke had hit a sore spot. A little later, my brother called me. He told me that he had gently talked to sister-in-law and helped her see that things have gotten out of hand. He also told me that knowing my wife was willing to apologize had made a huge difference. And then he admitted something. He'd wanted to fix things before the baby shower, but he knew his wife was under a lot of stress. He didn't want to add more pressure on her while she was in the middle of planning. And honestly, I respect that. My sister-in-law is one of those people who needs everything to be perfect. Her looks, my brother's look, the house, the decorations, etc. So I can understand the pressure she must have put on herself. And my brother knew that pushing her while she was stressed wouldn't have helped. So he waited. And after the event, when things calmed down, he quietly stepped in and fixed things. So, where do things stand now? Things seemed good on the surface. My wife and sister-in-law made peace, and my brother and I are fine. My wife and I have to decide to be extra sensitive around sister-in-law given what she is going through. All in all, the situation seems to have brought us somewhat closer together. The real takeaway? I have an amazing wife, but her humor could use some work. Also, my brother ain't too bad. Side note, speaking of whom, my brother will probably never see this because he only uses Reddit for sports and news, or so he says, but in the off chance he does, well, guess I'm busted. But since I have your attention, I'll admit something just this once. You're the best bro I could have asked for. That time you helped me for uni. I don't think you know how much it really meant to me, and when I was at a really low point, you stood by me. I don't think I ever said it, but I've always appreciated that. Of course, I won't ever admit this in person, and will forever deny I ever wrote this. Before we get into OP's edit, and in case you do somehow hear this as well, tell your brother that face to face. Nothing wrong with telling someone how much you appreciate them and love them. Brings you closer. Edit, everyone keeps asking why my wife didn't apologize first. I thought I made it clear in the post, but maybe not. My wife was going to apologize but wanted to check if sister-in-law was open to it. She had just been uninvited, so we had no idea whether sister-in-law was even open to talking to her. I told my brother that my wife wanted to apologize, and if he gave us the green lights, my wife would have absolutely called. Instead, my sister-in-law decided to call once my brother told her that my wife wanted to apologize. That was her being the bigger person. And the comments were still all over the place after this one. Some people talking about the sister-in-law sounds like a great person, other people saying OP's wife is, and the opposite way around as well. It's all over the place, but I think it sounded like they've made up in the best way possible, and I'm glad it's brought them somewhat closer together, and hopefully they understand each other. Maybe their humor's a bit more as well. I don't know. It felt okay to me. OP listening in on their phone call where they're talking to each other and apologizing to each other gave me a feeling that I felt some time back when I was a youngster. I remember playing football in the car park with my mates, and my brother and my mum, both absolute stubborn bastards. I'm a stubborn bastard as well, to be fair. They had an argument a couple of weeks prior and weren't talking to each other. And I can just remember when I was playing, I can still picture it to this day, that I was stood there playing football. And I remember seeing my brother walking across the path. I didn't say anything to him, but he was heading towards my parents' house. And I had that same feeling of like, oh, please, that kind of relief I felt in this story when they were talking to each other. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time, it always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.